As a new mum, I think unless you have a personal chef, I think it's an absolute miracle if you're able to get out of bed in the morning, have a shower, brush your hair, and make it to the fridge past the chocolate cupboard. So on a good day, I'll have granola and skyr in the morning, and lunchtime I'll have maybe a small omelette with some salad, and then for dinner maybe some fish and some steamed vegetables. That's a good day. On a bad day, honestly, it's crumpets in bed and possibly an Indian takeaway in the evenings, and I'm not going to tell you how many bad days I've had. Energy levels. What's energy? I have no idea anymore. I haven't slept in 3 months. But the two things I would say I do religiously almost every day anyway, is to go for a walk. I find that being outside in the fresh air, and especially in the middle of the countryside, rain or shine, I go for at least a 2-mile walk, usually a 4-mile walk every day. And then the other thing I try to get right is to have breakfast. I try to have a really healthy breakfast, and that really sets me up for the day. If I do those two things, I feel so much better after a very lacking night's sleep. Well, breakfast, I think, is the most important meal of the day for everyone, but especially a new mum. As a new mum, you're really lacking in energy, and you need breakfast to just get going in the morning. I try to focus on a really healthy breakfast, and that sets me up for the entire day. I couldn't go without it. Where it came to exercise, it's something that I kept up until my 38th week of pregnancy. I did a lot of yoga, but I was quite careful about the amount of exercise I did and the timing of that return to exercise. So I gave it at least 3 weeks before I went on any kind of vigorous walk. So I think it's a personal thing. It's important to check in with your doctor and to take your return to exercise very slowly and gently to prevent injury after childbirth. Calories are pretty much the focus of my day. I spend my entire day thinking about food and when I can have my next meal. The average woman needs to add about 300 to 500 calories a day on top of their normal intake. My little one has gained 1.5 pounds every other week since she's been born, so she's a whopping 16 pounds at 13 weeks. So definitely yes, it's important to make sure that you keep your intake relatively high as a new mum. As a new mum, the main focus of my intake is on foods that release energy slowly to keep me going throughout the day. So those are things like whole, rolled, porridge oats, fruits and vegetables, that kind of thing. And that keeps the level of sugar in my blood stable. That's really important. Secondly, I focus on foods that are high in sources of protein and healthy fats, such as oily fish, lean white meats, fortified soya products, nuts and seeds, and avocados. And I also focus on foods that are high in calcium. That's one micronutrient that every breastfeeding mum needs to focus on, and every pregnant woman needs to focus on as well. So things like low-fat dairy and dark green leafy vegetables are really good to include. Caffeine's an interesting one. Studies suggest that if you keep your intake of caffeine moderate, so that's 2 to 3 cups of coffee or caffeinated tea per day, then it shouldn't negatively impact the sleep patterns or development of your baby. Personally, my morning coffee keeps me sane. The research on alcohol isn't conclusive. There's no evidence to suggest that a moderate intake of alcohol is going to harm your baby. However, it's important to keep your intake moderate. And one thing to remember as a new mum is if you want a cheeky glass of wine, which every new mum probably does, I did, then you can time that with the onset of a feed. So if you remember that alcohol will take about 30 minutes to enter your bloodstream and therefore potentially your breast milk, if you time that with the start of a feed or just after you've finished a feed, it's very unlikely that any traces of alcohol will be in your bloodstream or in your breast milk and therefore affect your baby. I'm a huge fan of Ísey Skyr. I've been eating it for years now, particularly if you're eating the real Icelandic skyr. It's a fantastic source of protein. It's low in saturated fat. It tastes really good. It's a source of beneficial bacteria that not only give it a very distinctive flavor, but it also promotes the balance of healthy bacteria in your gut. And finally, it's a fantastic source of calcium. So as a low-fat, high-protein dairy product, it's a great source of calcium for not only pregnant women, but women who want to breastfeed as well. Well, as a new mum, I need to keep things simple, so my favourite way to enjoy Ísey Skyr is to make a homemade granola, and that has things like the whole rolled porridge oats, pecans, flaked almonds, and I flavour it with just a little bit of maple syrup and vanilla essence, and that combination with the skyr makes it taste great.